I need to tell you something about Scorpio love that most astrologers won't admit because it makes people uncomfortable. And I'm telling you this now because we're in a rare cosmic window where the truth about Scorpio's emotional architecture is being revealed in ways we haven't seen in decades. This isn't just another compatibility discussion. This is about understanding why Scorpio's love feels like standing at the edge of an active volcano, beautiful and terrifying at once, and why only one specific energetic match can not only survive that heat but actually thrive in it. You might think you already know about Scorpio intensity. You've heard the words passionate, jealous, obsessive, loyal. But those are just labels we use when we don't want to look at what's really happening beneath the surface. What's really happening is that Scorpio doesn't just love. They alchemize. They don't just connect. They merge. And most people, most zodiac energies, simply cannot handle the level of psychological excavation that comes with being loved by a Scorpio. Have you noticed something lately? A strange exhaustion mixed with anticipation. A feeling that surface-level connections no longer satisfy you. That small talk feels like sandpaper against your soul. If you're a Scorpio, or if you've been drawn to Scorpio energy recently, you've already felt this shift. Your body knows before your mind catches up. There's a tightness in your chest, a restlessness in your solar plexus, an unexplainable knowing that something fundamental is changing in how you approach intimacy and connection. This is not coincidence. This is the universe preparing you for a truth that will completely reframe how you understand Scorpio love and who can actually match it. Let me be direct with you. The astrological community has done Scorpio a disservice by focusing on their intensity as a problem to be managed rather than a gift to be understood. We talk about Scorpio's jealousy, their need for control, their tendency toward obsession, as if these are character flaws rather than symptoms of a much deeper psychological and energetic reality. Scorpio operates from the 8th house, the house of death, rebirth, transformation, and shared resources. This means that for Scorpio, love is never casual. It cannot be. Their entire energetic blueprint is designed for depth, for excavation, for the kind of intimacy that strips away pretense and forces both people to confront who they really are beneath the social masks. When Scorpio loves you, they're not just offering affection, they're offering to see you, truly see you, in ways that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. They will look directly at your wounds, your shadows, your unhealed trauma, and they will not flinch. But here's what makes this so challenging. They expect the same in return. They need the same in return. And most zodiac signs, even the ones traditionally considered compatible with Scorpio, simply don't have the emotional infrastructure to meet Scorpio at that level without eventually retreating, shutting down, or trying to lighten things up. Does this resonate with you? Have you watched Scorpio relationships implode not because of lack of love, but because one person couldn't handle the depth of excavation required? Now, before I reveal the one match that can't really handle Scorpio's intensity, we need to understand what we're actually talking about when we say intensity. This word gets thrown around so casually in astrology that it's lost its meaning. Scorpio intensity is not about drama. It's not about creating chaos or being emotionally volatile. Scorpio intensity is surgical precision applied to emotional truth. It's the unwavering commitment to authenticity even when authenticity is uncomfortable. It's the refusal to accept surface-level explanations when deeper truths are available. Think of it this way. Most people approach relationships like they're decorating the living room. They want things to look nice, feel comfortable, create a pleasant atmosphere. Scorpio approaches relationships like an archaeologist at a dig site. They're not interested in what's on the surface. They want to excavate layer by layer until they reach the bedrock of truth. Even if that process is messy, even if it uncovers things that are difficult to look at. This is not a character flaw. This is Scorpio's gift. But it requires a partner who is equally committed to that level of truth-seeking, who won't panic when the excavation gets uncomfortable. And here's where most compatibility analyses fail. They look at element compatibility, fire with air, earth with water, and they make broad generalizations. They say Scorpio works well with Cancer because they're both water signs, or with Pisces because of emotional depth, or even with Taurus because of the opposition creating magnetic attraction. And yes, there's truth in all of these pairings, but they're missing the crucial element. They're missing the question of who can actually hold space for Scorpio's transformative power without trying to dim it, redirect it, or escape from it. Cancer, bless them, wants emotional security and nurturing. When Scorpio starts excavating, Cancer often retreats into their shell, feeling unsafe. Pisces has the emotional depth but lacks the boundaries. They merge so completely that they lose themselves. And Scorpio, despite their reputation, actually needs a partner with a strong sense of self. Taurus provides stability but often resists the constant transformation that Scorpio requires. They want things to stay the same once they've found comfort. Scorpio is allergic to stagnation. So who can handle it? Who has the emotional courage, the psychological resilience, and the energetic capacity to not just survive Scorpio's intensity, but to actually match it, challenge it, and grow with it? The answer is going to surprise you because it's not who the traditional compatibility charts emphasize. The only match that can't really handle Scorpio's intense love, the only energy that can meet them at their depth without flinching, is Capricorn. I know what you're thinking. Capricorn, the sign known for being reserved, practical, focused on achievement and structure. How could Earth sign Capricorn possibly match water sign Scorpio's emotional intensity? This is where we need to go deeper than surface-level astrological understanding. This is where we need to look at the underlying psychological and energetic architecture of both signs. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the planet of structure, discipline, and mastery. But here's what most people miss about Saturn. It's also the planet of depth, of facing reality without illusion, of doing the hard work that others avoid. Capricorn doesn't shy away from difficulty. They don't need things to be easy or comfortable. In fact, Capricorn is most alive when they're working towards something that requires their full capacity, when they're building something that will last, when they're facing challenges that would make others quit. Do you see the parallel? Scorpio excavates emotional truth with surgical precision. Capricorn builds lasting structures through disciplined effort. Both signs are willing to do what others won't. Both signs have an almost superhuman capacity for endurance. Both signs respect depth, mastery, and the long game. But rather than saying they're similar, it's better to say they're complementary in a way that creates an almost unbreakable foundation. When Scorpio brings their emotional intensity to Capricorn, Capricorn doesn't panic. They don't try to lighten the mood or change the subject. Capricorn looks at Scorpio's depth and thinks, finally, someone who takes things as seriously as I do. Finally, someone who understands that real intimacy requires work, commitment, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths. Capricorn has spent their entire life building structures that can withstand pressure. They're not intimidated by Scorpio's intensity. They're intrigued by it. They see it as a challenge worth rising to. And here's the crucial part. Capricorn has boundaries. Strong, clear, unshakable boundaries. Not walls, but boundaries. They know where they end and others begin. They have a solid sense of self that doesn't dissolve under pressure. This is exactly what Scorpio needs. Scorpio doesn't actually want someone who will lose themselves in the relationship. That's too easy, too unstable. Scorpio wants someone who can stand firm in their own identity while still being willing to go deep. Capricorn provides this in a way that no other sign can. Let me give you a concrete example of how this plays out. Imagine Scorpio is going through one of their transformative periods. Those times when they're shedding an old identity and emerging as something new. This process is intense, often arc, and requires space for the psychological death and rebirth that Scorpio periodically undergoes. Most partners will try to fix it, cheer them up, or get scared and pull away. Capricorn does none of these things. Capricorn understands that transformation requires time and space. They don't take Scorpio's intensity personally. They don't need Scorpio to be different. They simply hold space, maintain stability, and trust the process. This is not emotional coldness. This is emotional maturity at the highest level. And when Capricorn is in their own struggle, climbing their mountain, facing their Saturn lessons, dealing with the weight of responsibility they always seem to carry, Scorpio doesn't try to rescue them or make it easier. Scorpio sees Capricorn's struggle and honors it. Scorpio understands that Capricorn needs to face their challenges directly. That this is how Capricorn builds their sense of self-worth and mastery. But Scorpio also sees beneath Capricorn's stoic exterior. They see the vulnerability that Capricorn rarely shows anyone. And Scorpio creates a safe space for that vulnerability without making Capricorn feel weak for having it. This is the dance. This is the magic. Scorpio brings emotional depth and transformative power. Capricorn brings structure, stability, and unwavering commitment. Together, they create something that can withstand anything because both partners are willing to do the deep work. Both partners respect the process. And both partners understand that real love is not about ease or comfort. It's about growth, evolution, and becoming more fully yourself through the relationship. Have you noticed this dynamic in your own life? Have you seen how Scorpio and Capricorn, when they come together, create a bond that others can't quite understand but can definitely feel the power of? Now, let's go even deeper into why this pairing works on an energetic level. Scorpio is fixed water. Fixed means stable, committed, unwavering. Water means emotional, intuitive, flowing beneath the surface. Capricorn is cardinal earth. Cardinal means initiating, leading, taking action. Earth means grounded, practical, building in the material world. When you combine fixed water with cardinal earth, you get emotional depth that's stable and committed, meeting practical action that's grounded and purposeful. This is not a pairing that burns hot and fast like fire signs. This is a pairing that builds slowly, deepens over time, and becomes more powerful with each passing year. There's something else happening here that most astrology content completely overlooks. And it has to do with power dynamics. Scorpio is often described as controlling or possessive. There's truth to that. But we need to understand what's actually driving this behavior. Scorpio doesn't seek control for control's sake. Scorpio seeks control because they've been hurt before. Because they understand how vulnerable true intimacy makes you, and because they need to feel safe before they can fully surrender. This is the paradox of Scorpio love. They want complete merger, total intimacy, absolute trust. But they can only get there if they feel they have some measure of control over the situation. Most signs respond to this in one of two ways. Either they submit completely, losing themselves in the process, or they resist, creating a power struggle that eventually destroys the relationship. Capricorn does neither. Capricorn has their own relationship with power that's equally complex. Capricorn understands authority, hierarchy, and control because they've spent their life mastering these dynamics in the external world. But Capricorn's power doesn't come from domination. It comes from competence, from earned respect, from the quiet confidence of someone who knows their own worth and doesn't need to prove it. When Scorpio tries to control the relationship, Capricorn doesn't fight back and they don't collapse. They simply hold their ground. They make it clear through their actions, not their words, that they cannot be controlled. But they also make it clear that they're not going anywhere. This is exactly what Scorpio needs to feel safe enough to let go of control. Scorpio needs to test the boundaries. Needs to know that their partner won't crumble under pressure. And Capricorn passes this test every single time, not because they're trying to, but because their Saturn-ruled nature makes them fundamentally unshakable. Let me tell you about a Scorpio-Capricorn couple I worked with recently. The Scorpio woman came to me in distress because she felt like she was sabotaging her relationship. She kept picking fights, testing her Capricorn partner, pushing him away to see if he would leave. She knew she was doing it. She hated herself for it. But she couldn't stop. This is classic Scorpio behavior when they're falling in love and terrified of the vulnerability that comes with it. I asked her what her partner did when she pushed him away. She paused, and then she said something that gave me chills. She said, "He just looks at me with these calm eyes and says, 'I'm not going anywhere. But I'm also not going to engage with this version of you. When you're ready to talk about what's really bothering you, I'm here.'" Do you understand the mastery in that response? Capricorn didn't take the bait. He didn't get defensive or angry. He didn't try to fix her or convince her of his love. He simply held his boundary while making his commitment clear. This is the only response that works with Scorpio. Any other approach either enables the destructive pattern or creates more fear and insecurity. Capricorn's response said, "I see what you're doing. I understand why you're doing it. I'm not threatened by it, and I'm going to wait for you to come back to yourself." That level of emotional maturity and patience is rare. It's Saturn-ruled wisdom applied to intimate relationship. Within 3 months. That Scorpio woman told me she had never felt safer in a relationship. She said she finally understood that she didn't need to control everything because her partner was solid enough to handle her intensity without trying to change her or leave her. This is the gift Capricorn gives to Scorpio. Not passion in the traditional sense. Not grand romantic gestures. But something far more valuable. The security of knowing that their intensity won't drive their partner away. Now let's talk about the sexual and physical dimension of this pairing. Because this is where another layer of compatibility reveals itself. Scorpio is associated with sexuality. With the primal life force energy. With the kind of physical intimacy that transcends the merely physical and becomes a spiritual experience. Scorpio doesn't separate sex from emotion. For Scorpio, physical intimacy is another form of excavation. Another way to merge completely with their partner. Another opportunity for transformation. This intensity can be overwhelming for many signs. Fire signs might match the passion initially but lack the emotional depth. Air signs might find it too heavy. Too serious. Water signs might have the emotional component but lack the grounding. Capricorn brings something unexpected to the bedroom. Remember, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is about mastery, about taking time to perfect a craft, about understanding that the best things require patience and skill. Capricorn approaches physical intimacy the same way they approach everything else in life. With dedication, focus, and a commitment to excellence. They're not interested in quick encounters or surface-level pleasure. They want to understand their partner's body completely, to learn what creates the deepest satisfaction, to build a sexual connection that deepens over time rather than fading. This matches Scorpio's energy perfectly. Scorpio wants intensity. Yes, but they also want consistency. They want a partner who takes physical intimacy as seriously as they do, who understands that sex is not separate from the rest of the relationship but deeply integrated with it. Capricorn provides this. And because Capricorn has such strong boundaries and sense of self, they can surrender to the intensity of physical connection with Scorpio without losing themselves in it. They can go to those deep places with Scorpio and then come back to themselves, maintaining the balance that makes long-term intimacy sustainable. There's also the factor of loyalty and commitment, which both signs value above almost everything else. Scorpio's loyalty is legendary. Once they commit completely. They don't do casual. They don't do halfway. They don't keep one foot out the door. But Scorpio's loyalty comes with an expectation of absolute reciprocity. They need to know that their partner is equally committed, equally invested, equally willing to prioritize the relationship above other concerns. Many signs struggle with this level of commitment. They want freedom, flexibility, the ability to maintain independence. They see Scorpio's need for total commitment as restrictive or suffocating. Capricorn doesn't see it this way at all. Capricorn understands commitment at a cellular level. When Capricorn decides to build something, Whether it's a career, a business, or a relationship, they're in it for the long haul. They don't make commitments lightly, but once they do, they honor them with almost religious devotion. This is Saturn's influence again. Saturn teaches us that anything worth having requires sustained effort over time. Capricorn applies this wisdom to relationships. They don't expect love to be easy or effortless. They expect it to require work, dedication, and the willingness to show up even when things are difficult. When Scorpio looks at Capricorn and sees this level of commitment, something in them relaxes. The fear that drives so much of Scorpio's controlling behavior begins to dissolve. They start to trust that they can be fully themselves, intensity and all, without driving their partner away. And when Capricorn looks at Scorpio and sees someone who takes commitment as seriously as they do, who won't bail when things get hard, who's willing to do the deep work of relationship, they feel met in a way they rarely experience with other signs. But let's address the challenges. Because no pairing is perfect, and pretending otherwise does no one any favors. The primary challenge in a Scorpio-Capricorn relationship is emotional expression. Scorpio feels everything intensely and needs to process those feelings through deep conversation, through excavation, through bringing everything to the surface. Capricorn, while capable of deep feeling, is much more reserved in emotional expression. They process internally. They don't always have words for what they're feeling. They show love through actions, through consistency, through building a stable life together. But they're not naturally inclined toward the kind of emotional vulnerability and verbal processing that Scorpio craves. This can create friction. Scorpio might interpret Capricorn's reserve as emotional unavailability or lack of depth. Capricorn might feel overwhelmed by Scorpio's need for constant emotional processing and deep conversation. If both partners aren't aware of this dynamic and willing to work with it, it can become a source of ongoing tension. Scorpio needs to understand that Capricorn's reserve doesn't mean lack of feeling. Capricorn needs to understand that Scorpio's need for emotional expression isn't drama or neediness. It's how they process and integrate their experiences. The solution lies in both partners stretching beyond their comfort zones. Scorpio needs to learn to read Capricorn's actions as expressions of love and commitment. To trust that consistency and reliability are forms of devotion even when they're not accompanied by passionate declarations. Capricorn needs to learn to verbalize their feelings more. To understand that for Scorpio, words matter. That saying "I love you" or "I'm committed to you" or "I see you" isn't weakness, but necessary reassurance. This requires work from both sides. But both Scorpio and Capricorn are willing to do work that other signs would avoid. This is part of why the pairing ultimately succeeds. There's also the issue of social needs and external focus. Scorpio is intensely private. They guard their inner world carefully and only let a select few people truly close. They prefer deep connections with a small circle over broad social networks. Capricorn, while also selective about relationships, often has significant external focus because of career ambitions and social positioning. Capricorn is building something in the world, and that requires networking, professional relationships, and time spent on external achievement. Scorpio can sometimes feel neglected or deprioritized when Capricorn is focused on career goals. This is where understanding each other's needs becomes crucial. Capricorn needs to succeed in the external world. This isn't about ego or materialism, though it can look that way from the outside. For Capricorn, building something lasting in the material world is how they express their deepest values. It's how they create security. Not just for themselves but for the people they love. It's how they prove to themselves that they have worth and competence. Scorpio needs to understand that Capricorn's career focus isn't a rejection of the relationship, but an expression of how they show love through providing stability and security. At the same time, Capricorn needs to understand that Scorpio's need for private, intimate time together isn't clinginess or insecurity. It's how Scorpio maintains the deep connection that makes them feel safe and alive. Scorpio doesn't need constant attention, but they need quality attention. They need times when Capricorn is fully present, when the phone is off, when work is set aside, when it's just the two of them going deep together. If Capricorn can provide this, even if it's less frequent than Scorpio might initially want, Scorpio will feel secure enough to support Capricorn's external ambitions without resentment. Have you experienced this tension between depth and achievement in your own relationships? Have you felt the pull between wanting to build something in the world and wanting to go deep with your partner? Let me share another story that illustrates how this pairing works when both partners are conscious and committed. I knew a Capricorn man who was building a business, working 70-hour weeks, completely absorbed in creating something from nothing. His Scorpio partner could have felt neglected, could have demanded more time and attention, could have created drama to pull his focus back to the relationship. She did something remarkable. She told him, "I see what you're building and I believe in it. I'm going to hold down our home, our private world, so you can focus on your work. But twice a week, you're mine completely. No phone, no work talked, just us going deep together. The rest of the time, I trust you and I support you." This is Scorpio operating at their highest level. They're not abandoning their need for depth and intimacy, but they're also not making unreasonable demands. They're setting clear boundaries about what they need while also supporting their partner's goals. And the Capricorn man's response was equally mature. He honored those twice weekly deep connection times religiously. He didn't counsel. He didn't show up distracted. He didn't treat them as optional. He understood that this was the foundation that allowed him to pursue his ambitions without guilt or relationship instability. Within 2 years, his business was thriving and their relationship was stronger than ever because both partners understood what the other needed and were willing to provide it. This is the potential of Scorpio Capricorn when both partners are doing their work. It's not easy, it's not effortless, but it's powerful in a way that few other pairings can match. Both signs understand that anything worth having requires effort. That depth and stability don't just happen. They're built through consistent choice and commitment over time. Now let's talk about something that rarely gets discussed in compatibility analysis, but is absolutely crucial for understanding why Scorpio and Capricorn work so well together: their shared relationship with power, control, and transformation in the context of healing old wounds. Both of these signs carry deep karmic patterns related to trust, vulnerability, and the fear of being truly seen. Scorpio's wounds often stem from betrayal, from having their trust violated, from learning early in life that showing vulnerability can be weaponized against them. This is why Scorpio guards their inner world so fiercely, why they test people before letting them close, why they need to feel in control before they can't surrender. Capricorn's wounds are different but equally profound. Capricorn often grows up too fast, takes on responsibility too young, learns that they can only rely on themselves. They build walls not out of fear of betrayal like Scorpio, but out of the belief that needing others is weakness, that asking for help is failure, that they must be completely self-sufficient to have worth. This creates a kind of emotional isolation that Capricorn doesn't even recognize as isolation because they've normalized it. They think this is just how life works. You work hard, you achieve, you prove your value through what you build, and you don't burden others with your needs or vulnerabilities. When these two wounded patterns meet, something extraordinary can happen if both partners are willing to do the healing work. Scorpio teaches Capricorn that vulnerability is not weakness but courage, that needing someone doesn't diminish your strength but actually enhances it, that true intimacy requires letting someone see you when you're not strong, not achieving, not in control. This is terrifying for Capricorn initially. Their entire identity is built on being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who has it together. But Scorpio creates a space where Capricorn can finally set down that burden, where they can admit that they're tired, that they need support, that they don't always have to be the mountain that everyone else leans on. And Capricorn teaches Scorpio something equally valuable: that trust can be rebuilt through consistent action over time, that not everyone will betray them, that it's possible to be fully seen and still be safe. Capricorn doesn't make grand promises or passionate declarations that Scorpio has learned to distrust. Instead, Capricorn shows up. Day after day after day, week after week, year after year. Capricorn demonstrates through their actions that they're not going anywhere. That Scorpio's intensity doesn't scare them, that they can be trusted with Scorpio's deepest vulnerabilities. This consistency is what finally allows Scorpio to lower their guard, to stop testing, to believe that maybe, just maybe, they found someone who won't use their vulnerability against them. This mutual healing is not quick or easy. It requires both partners to face their deepest fears and most painful wounds. But both Scorpio and Capricorn have the emotional endurance and commitment to depth that this kind of healing requires. They don't expect instant transformation. They understand that real change happens slowly, through repeated experiences that gradually rewire old patterns. This patience with the healing process is something that sets this pairing apart from others. Fire signs want transformation to happen quickly and dramatically. Air signs want to intellectualize and understand wounds without necessarily feeling them. Other water signs might have the emotional capacity but lack the stability to hold space for deep healing without getting overwhelmed. Other earth signs might have the stability but resist the emotional intensity required for true transformation. Scorpio and Capricorn together create the perfect conditions for deep healing. Emotional intensity combined with structural stability. The willingness to go into dark places combined with the groundedness to come back out. The commitment to truth combined with the patience to let truth reveal itself over time. This is not just a romantic relationship. This is a transformative partnership that changes both people at the deepest levels of their being. Let me address something that might be coming up for you right now. Especially if you're a Scorpio reading this or if you're in relationship with a Scorpio. You might be thinking, this sounds amazing in theory. But what about the day-to-day reality? What about when Scorpio's jealousy flares up? What about when Capricorn shuts down emotionally? What about the moments when it feels like you're speaking completely different languages? These are valid concerns. And I want to be clear that I'm not painting an idealized picture where everything is perfect and easy. The Scorpio-Capricorn pairing requires work, consciousness, and the willingness to keep choosing each other even when it's hard. The jealousy issue is real. Scorpio's jealousy doesn't come from insecurity about their own worth, though it can look that way from the outside. It comes from their acute awareness of how much they have to lose, from their understanding that true intimacy makes you vulnerable, from their fear that if they fully surrender to love, they could be destroyed by its loss. When Scorpio feels jealous, they're not actually worried that they're not good enough. They're terrified of the pain that would come from betrayal or loss. This is an important distinction because it changes how we work with the jealousy. Capricorn's response to Scorpio's jealousy is crucial. If Capricorn gets defensive, if they dismiss Scorpio's feelings as irrational or try to logic them away, the jealousy will intensify. Scorpio will feel unheard and unsafe, which triggers more controlling behavior. But if Capricorn can understand what's really driving the jealousy, if they can respond with reassurance that's backed up by consistent action, the jealousy gradually diminishes. Capricorn needs to say, I understand that you're afraid of losing me, and I want you to know that I'm committed to you. And then Capricorn needs to demonstrate that commitment through their choices, through transparency, through making Scorpio a priority in ways that are visible and concrete. Over time, as Scorpio experiences Capricorn's unwavering commitment, as they see that Capricorn's actions match their words month after month, year after year, the jealousy loses its grip. Scorpio begins to trust not just Capricorn but the relationship itself. They begin to believe that they can be vulnerable without being destroyed. This doesn't happen overnight. It might take years. But both Scorpio and Capricorn understand that real trust is built slowly, through accumulated evidence, and both are willing to invest that time. The emotional shutdown issue is equally important to address. When Capricorn feels overwhelmed by emotion, whether their own or Scorpio's, Their instinct is to retreat into work, into practical tasks, into the external world where they feel competent and in control. This can feel like abandonment to Scorpio, like Capricorn is choosing achievement over intimacy, like the relationship isn't actually a priority. If this pattern isn't addressed, it can create a cycle where Scorpio's intensity increases in an attempt to get Capricorn's attention, which makes Capricorn retreat further, which makes Scorpio more intense, and so on. Breaking this cycle requires both partners to stretch. Capricorn needs to learn to stay present with difficult emotions instead of escaping into work. This doesn't mean Capricorn has to become emotionally expressive in the way Scorpio is, but it does mean they need to be willing to sit with discomfort. To say I'm feeling overwhelmed right now but I'm not leaving. To ask for space in a way that doesn't feel like rejection. And Scorpio needs to learn to give Capricorn that space without interpreting it as abandonment. To trust that Capricorn will come back. To understand that Capricorn's need for processing time doesn't mean they don't care. This is where having a shared commitment to growth becomes essential. Both partners need to see the relationship not just as a source of comfort or companionship, but as a vehicle for becoming more fully themselves. When challenges arise, instead of blaming each other or threatening to leave, they need to ask, what is this situation teaching me about myself? What old pattern is being triggered? What would it look like to respond differently? This level of consciousness and personal responsibility is rare. But both Scorpio and Capricorn are capable of it when they're operating at their highest level. There's also something profound that happens in this pairing around the concept of legacy and long-term vision. Both Scorpio and Capricorn are deeply concerned with what they're building that will outlast them. Scorpio thinks about this in terms of transformation and impact. They want their life to mean something, to create change that ripples beyond their individual existence. Capricorn thinks about this in terms of structures and achievements. They want to build something lasting, to leave the world different than they found it, to create security and stability that extends beyond their own lifetime. When these two visions combine in a relationship, they create a partnership that's oriented towards something larger than just the two people involved. They might build a business together, create art that transforms people, raise children with deep consciousness, or simply create a relationship that models what's possible when two people commit to depth, growth, and unwavering loyalty. This shared sense of purpose gives the relationship meaning beyond just personal satisfaction. It becomes about what they're creating together in the world, what legacy they're building, what they're contributing to the larger human story. This is especially powerful in the current astrological climate we're moving through. We're in a time when superficial connections are becoming increasingly unsatisfying. When people are hungry for depth and authenticity. When the old relationship models based on convenience and comfort are crumbling. The Scorpio-Capricorn pairing represents a new paradigm. Or perhaps a very old paradigm that we're remembering. Relationships as transformative partnerships. As vehicles for mutual evolution. As sacred containers for deep healing and growth. If you're a Scorpio who has been struggling to find someone who can match your intensity, who has been told you're too much or too intense or too demanding, I want you to hear this. You just haven't found your Capricorn yet. And when you do, when you find that person who looks at your depth and sees not a problem to be managed, but a gift to be honored, when you find someone whose commitment matches your own, whose capacity for endurance and growth equals yours, you'll understand that all the shallow connections you endured were preparing you for this. You'll understand that your intensity is not a flaw but a feature. Not something to be dimmed but something to be fully expressed with someone who can handle it. And if you're a Capricorn who has been focused on achievement and external success, who has built walls around your